at the moment, I'm actually not that well. I've got COVID. So I'm out here at the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail. You hear it now. Out here at the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail to tell a story about another person who was really unwell. Another person who almost died from a combination of malaria and typhoid. So let's go way back. Let's go way back 160 kilometres down this Brisbane Valley Rail Trail. And it was just after my stepdaughter graduated from high school. I'd realised for a while that after she graduated, that I would have to find some other purpose in my life. Being the father of a child was no longer going to be a sufficient pillar of self-esteem for me, because she was going to move on and get on with her own life. And that's happened. She's graduated a couple of weeks ago. Anyhow, I went to 160 kilometres to the other end of this rail trail to walk it for 10 days, to contemplate in my head what would be the next step in finding the pillars of self-esteem in my own life. I will get to my friend Solomon soon. It's all part of this story. So I'm walking and I'm walking and I'm walking, and stuff is coming to me, but I never quite got it. I never quite got what that pillar would be once being the father of a child was no longer available to me. So I came back, I think it was about a year later, and I was on a bike from here. There's a lady up here on a bike waiting to come past, I think. So I was on a bike, I rode out underneath this, and I rode that way. And I rode for 100 kilometres or so, and I stopped in a little town. And I met a YouTuber, a woman who travelled around by herself and made a YouTube channel about being a woman who travels by herself. And I was filming with drones and doing all sorts of things. And she said, why don't you start a YouTube channel? And that night, I set up this particular channel. And I still didn't have really a purpose for it. Morning, how are you? How far are you going? Oh, have a great day. So I rode off like these people here, heading up past Fernvale where they're going. And I set up this YouTube channel and I thought, okay, I'll make it a wellness channel. So I started doing, there's a video of me doing knuckle push-ups, right? Like so. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'll just make it a wellness in the wild type channel. So talking about how to maintain your wellness while you're traveling around. But that didn't seem really to be complete enough to me. And I ended up behind a mountain in a place called Esk, and just exploring on my bike. And I came across a couple, and they were telling me about how they raise cattle to make money to be able to replant trees for koalas to survive in. And they said to me, why don't you consider the concept of philanthropy? And of course, as a teacher, I don't make a fortune, so I couldn't really do philanthropy through money. And I'm not a very money-focused person. And I thought, and it came to me that I'd do philanthropy through action. And I saw a guy on Instagram who was going to the Africa Climate Summit in Nairobi. And he was a tree planter from Uganda. And while he was in that climate summit, he picked up a Natal mahogany seed off the ground and said that he was going to take it back to his homeland in Serera in Uganda and plant this tree to commemorate the Africa Climate Summit. And I got to talking with him. His name is Solomon. And eventually, I said to him, he didn't have very many people following him, and I thought maybe I can do something to encourage people to follow this amazing young man. And I eventually said to him, how about I come to you and I film you planting this one tree? And the premise behind it was filming one man planting one tree for 1 minute. So I thought that if I made this trip over there, that people would engage with this and engage with what Solomon was doing because of this simple premise, like this ridiculous thing of going over there to film for 1 minute. So I went there, travelled from Kampala, the main city, by bus, local bus, way out into the middle of rural Uganda, and met Solomon.
Hello, young man.
And he said to me, "Sorry, brother,
Been a long time.
the tree's not ready yet. If I put it into the ground, the tree will die." So a whole heap of other things happened. It was an amazing trip. Lots of dancing involved, right? Stuff like that. And I ended up coming back to Australia and got a moment of fame, you might say. If you look at this channel, there's like 50-something thousand subscribers. I think it's like 58,000 subscribers. The vast majority of those subscribers came to the channel because of that trip. So lots of things happened after that: radio interviews, opportunities to run training programs in Australia, planting trees, all sorts of things. And eventually the time came last Christmas to go back. The tree was ready. But before then, I'd lost contact with Solomon. And another one of our friends over there, Samuel, he contacted me and he said, "Brother, Solomon's dying. He's got typhoid. He's got malaria at the same time. And he's not going to live." And of course, that was like traumatic to all of us, especially Solomon. But 2 weeks later, he sent me a message. And in this message, he didn't even talk about his own struggles. He said to me, "Sorry, brother, I haven't been planting trees." And it just struck me that he'd gone through so much and he didn't even mention himself. And so I organised to go back, went back at Christmas last year, and we planted the tree. And him, Samuel, and myself, we sat on top of a mountain and we discussed it. We discussed, why was it that Solomon managed to get through this? Why did he survive? Why did his wellness come back? And we realized that his wellness came back because he had purpose. So back to what I was talking about before. Maybe in a society like mine, where wellness doesn't seem to be at the forefront of most people's minds, maybe the focus shouldn't be on wellness itself. Maybe the focus should be, or could be, on why a person wants to be well, why they need to be well. What purpose could you find in your life that could motivate you to maintain your wellness? What is something greater than yourself, like Solomon's drive to plant trees, that could motivate you to keep your wellness